It Ends With Us movement empowers women to heal from relationship traumas and break generational cycles. We aim to create an ongoing platform for education, collaboration, and awareness, uniting industry experts and other nonprofits to support communities affected by emotional abuse and domestic violence. Together, we are creating a movement where women support women, where we learn to recognize our worth, and where we commit to ensuring that the traumas we experienced stop with us. We are stronger together, and together we can end these cycles. Hello, welcome back to my podcast, Soul Purpose, Healing Beyond Your Scars. My name is Dana Robo, and I'm here today to talk about something really deep that affects every single one of us, how our past shapes our present. And we are here today with someone very special. Sometimes we need to, when we're going through something in life and we have to put the work in. And just like taking care of our bodies, we have to take care of our mind. And sometimes talking to a stranger and telling them what you're feeling and what you're going through in life is easier and better than even talking to your people that are very close to you. And so today, because sometimes the people closest to you don't understand, or it's hard to explain those things. So today we're joined here by Trinity O'Clery, a licensed clinical professional and life coach. She's been practicing for quite a long time, and she specializes in neuro-emotional technique therapy and trauma-focused approaches. So she's helped countless people uncover their root causes of trauma and how to break free from those wounds, and a lot of things discussed. And Trinity also is very dear to my heart because she has helped me. So recently she got a phone call from me months ago, and after 10 years since I first saw you. And I just shared with you my nonprofit and what I was doing, and what my goal and mission is to help other people. And I wanted you to be part of it because you were a big part of the turning point in my life. And you didn't realize it, right? You don't know. Sometimes we were just talking about it, that you don't, sometimes you don't realize what impact you're making in someone else's life. And you're just doing your job. You're just doing your passion. And the impact that you can make in someone's life goes so much. I mean, it's so amazing what you did for me to just push me to that next level. Obviously, I had to put all the work in, but you kind of got me to that next level to see the light and where my life was going, and how I was thinking, and how my past traumas affected my decisions that I was making in my adulthood. So I want to thank you for being here and sharing this journey with me. And I think we share the same common goal, is to really help people, and the goal is to share your knowledge with the audience and in ways that we can help them as well. Because everyone goes through trauma. I've been talking about it through my podcasts, through my events, and we talk about everybody. Everybody goes through trauma, and so. Yes. It's important to find out the root cause. So today, I want I want the audience to kind of get to know you more, and what drew you to this, to be a therapist, and also what drew you to specializing in this trauma and this neuro technique therapy that I had no clue what it was. Right? I thought therapy was just you're talking to somebody across the couch and you're telling them your life story. And I think that's what we want to branch away from, the stigma of therapy. So I'd like you to kind of share a little bit more about what is NET therapy and the different trauma therapy that you do for your patients.
Thank you so much, Dana. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and to see how much healing you've done, as well as next step sometimes in healing is bringing it to others. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing with your It Ends With Us movement and this podcast, to spread information so that others can heal from their wounds. And, you're a light out here to help others do that. And so I thank you so much for that. And I'm honored to have been a part of your journey as well. So when it comes to trauma therapy, there are some specific ways that we can, as therapists or counselors, I guess it's interchangeable what we are, what we do. I'm a master's level therapist, and so there's ways to go about it that help get at really the root, which is the emotional suffering from what has happened. Okay, and I don't pretend that there's just the therapies that I do, but there are several others available, many ways to get at things. And along the way, you've probably noticed that as well in different things that you've done to help yourself heal, right? Mm-hmm. There's positive experiences along the way as coaching. There's all kinds of ways to redirect ourselves, because often when we've had trauma, we're viewing life through that lens. And so as we expand and grow and heal, we start to understand, and we change our mind about things. It's really important to be able to have that mental, cognitive, emotional flexibility to kind of go into those deeper spaces and come back out, because the deeper spaces are where the emotional wounds reside. And so you asked about neuro-emotional technique. That is one technique that is wonderful at getting to the root. And the reason why why it's so effective is because we're looking to clear the negative emotions or the negative effects that can stay with a person. And the way we're able to access that is through applied kinesiology or muscle testing. Muscle testing, there are ways to utilize muscle testing that you might get tested on the strength of a muscle. That is one way. Another way is to utilize it to access a negative emotion through meridians, which are, I know I might be spitting out a bunch of information, that people might not be familiar with the terminology, but meridians are used in Chinese acupuncture, for example. That's been around for thousands of years. And we can actually locate those with touching certain meridian points on the wrist, hands, and on the forehead as well. Mm. So utilizing that therapy allows us to identify actually age and test what emotions are still stuck in there, okay? Mm. Stuck in the body. And those affect our mind, right? So the body will hide the trauma for us on our behalf until we are ready to process it. Yeah. Okay? And so I've seen cases where people are, maybe it's 4 decades later, 5 decades later, 6 decades later, decades, where the trauma was still there. They didn't know it. The muscle test will help us find it. Okay, so that's significant. Mm-hmm. Our bodies are communicating with us all the time. You know it from an intuitive sense, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this doesn't feel right. It does feel right. It's like an energetic type of communication. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of along those lines. If we think of our body as our friend, not our foe, right? And mm-hmm. and that there's this communication we can access through a simple muscle test, honestly. Some people are very, very well schooled at that, the applied kinesiology. But we can access what's in there still bothering that person, and through a chart of emotions, which this chart has, I haven't counted all the emotions on there, but the different meridian points where those emotions are likely to be in the body, then we can remove those. And to describe a hidden emotion or a stuck emotion in the body It's about the size of your clenched fist energetically, okay? And you can have thousands, tens of thousands of those in the body, depending on the trauma that an individual has experienced. So that's getting to the root. We can't erase the trauma experience itself. We're not able to do that. I guess I could say
it still stays in the memories, right? No.
Right. We're not erasing a memory necessarily. We are clearing the negative impact of it, and then it's more like, oh, that happened. Mm-hmm. It's in the past now, or that happened. Even I know of some techniques where we can reframe it, because where's it still residing or happening, if you say? Is it still, it's in your thoughts, it's in your thinking. So it's no longer happening in real life. So why does this keep coming up? Because it was so too much to process at the time. So now we get to process it. And I call it an egoic protection shield, or our ego, but I want to call it a protection shield, because it's saying, oh no, we're not going to go feel that again. That was too much. I don't want to. So we, kind of the suppression of that happens. But in reality, if we'll just bring it back out and feel into that uncomfortability, for a few moments, actually, right? It's not even for a real long time. Holding proper areas of meridian points to release that, breathing through it, boom, we're able to get at it. So that's the idea. There's other therapies I do as well, but maybe we'll cover those later too.
How would you say, because you obviously have been with a lot of patients, and how would you say that the childhood, because I talk a lot about I learned a lot about childhood trauma, and just seeing you and just reading up on researching, how does childhood trauma actually show up in our adult lives, and what's happening, like when you keep repeating and defeating these patterns, like what's happening in our bodies, like what is telling us when we need to like change something?
Great question. Let me see if I can frame it in such a way. We experience things in childhood. Childhood isn't the easiest thing to go through, right? I mean, we've all been there too.
Right.
And the processing of it eludes us. Either our parents don't know how to show us that, or whoever's caring for us, our grandparents. It's not necessarily where the people who are caring for us are as emotionally, I want to say, literate or aware as well. And that's why it can come down sometimes in terms of, ancestry. Yeah, just comes down and okay, now here I might be the person, or you might be the person who says, okay, we're going to heal this particular trauma or this way of thinking or whatever it is, and changing going forward. And so there's a little bit of momentum behind it. So childhood, we may not have the tools to process, nor do the people around us have the tools to process. So what can happen is in the techniques that I utilize to find the first experience of, say, an emotion like shame. Okay, so if I experienced shame at 4, I may have another experience of it at 44. And so what it is, it's going back to that original event that we may or may not get all the details about. It's not as important. It's more important to have that knowledge or feeling of that emotion. Okay, so I may feel shame at 44 for something, and I could go back to 4, and also it's kind of clearing everything in between. So the memory of the emotional the felt emotion is what we trace back so that we can clear out that. Now, there's different levels of that. We might go back to that age, for example, several times. That's okay, because each time we're removing the effects of something. How can someone know? I think you said, how can someone know if they're still operating out of that? It's probably going to be in the unconscious or the subconscious mind. There's a slight difference between the two, but both are beyond our level of awareness. Most of our behavior comes out of our unawareness, our unconsciousness. Okay, so it's when we begin to say, why do I keep doing this thing that I keep doing? Why do I keep repeating that pattern? Now we're on the right track to start asking those questions, even for individual self, to ask those questions and begin that journey of healing. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. So,
okay.
So when people say like, why, when you ask yourself why, like, why do I keep getting to these situations? Why do I keep having these thoughts? That's where, how do you help people get to understand that and like get through that, to understand the why are they having all these thoughts, and like, what can they do to help themselves? Because some people are just like, I don't know what to do, but I feel like the acceptance of knowing and accepting that you're like, okay, this is not right. Like, I'm a little crazy, or like, this is like just over the top. Like, I'm just, some people overreact, some people overthink, and a lot of people say like, oh, that's just my personality. Like, personality comes with, the way you were raised, you brought up, like your morals, your family life. But personality is one thing, but all the triggers, the overthinking, the anxieties. I mean, a lot of people I see, in the everyday life, I see with a lot of issues, right? A lot of mental health issues and all these things happening. And I want to bring more awareness to the whole childhood trauma thing and realizing the why behind it. So how do you really get down? Like, I mean, you can even share, my example that helped me, but like understanding the why behind it. Like, how do you get people to like get over that hump?
So the questions, the why, the what, the who, where, when, all that, right? All those questions, or that's the start of a question, I should say. Those are all helpful. And to the muscle test, as I referred to earlier, is kind of a key point in helping uncover. And then it's about a conversation, like, where were you, what were you doing when you were 6 years old? And it's really interesting to watch people suddenly go, well, wait a minute, I haven't thought about this for, a lot of years, decades. And for them then to have that light bulb moment of, oh, I did not realize how impactful that was. Or what, once we talk through it, there's an easing of their emotion. There's an easing. They're like, oh, and recognizing it for themselves. People who are in there to do their work, just need to be guided. Just need to have proper framework or tools, if you will, in a therapy session. And then there's also that, okay, is it a flex to just do it all on my own? Well, you could. You might have some blind spots, though. We all have them. Every single one of it. Even a therapist. Like I'm human too. So we can have a blind spot, and somebody can say, "Hey, what is it about that you do it that way, or why did you say it that way?" Right? A response to something, or even a reaction. Oh, that's interesting. That's then on the outside some kind of a trigger for me, or that individual. There's triggers that happen along the way. They can come about from anything, something we're seeing, feeling it is quite the life journey to see, oh, I'm still triggered by something like that, right? And just to recognize it, and then to go about reaching out. And I think it is truly an act of courage to reach out and say, I need some help. Something, I can't figure this out. I can't understand why my life isn't working. It could be a bigger framework of why am I not able to achieve the goals I'd like to achieve? What am I overlooking? How can I go about getting the support I need to overcome the obstacles, right? And that can happen through therapy, can happen through a good life coach as well. It just depends on the fit for that individual, how comfortable they can feel, with that person to let things out and feel safe, feel emotionally safe to share.
Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So do you have, can you share obviously with my situation is a success story, but like a success story, just a generic on how you helped someone get through their childhood traumas and realize it, and then the success from that, and how long does that usually take? For average.
Great questions. Let's see. It's kind of interesting. People will maybe stop therapy, and I may not get to hear what the success story is, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't always get a call 10 years later and say, "Hey, would you be part of?
Yeah, right.
Would you be part of my movement?" So it's ambiguous sometimes for what I do to really see. Some people are more vocal. Wow, I'm really being helped. This is what I'm doing differently. It just really depends a lot on things. I would say, people need to give it a go for a good 6 to 10 sessions to see what else might pop out, right? Mm-hmm. It's very individualized. Yeah. Some people, like I was saying earlier, maybe their trauma's been buried for decades, multiple decades. They have no idea. And so that's interesting too. And then they start to put the puzzle pieces together for themselves about, this is the framework under which I've been operating in my mind with the way that I look at things. When you change your way of looking at things, the way things change for you, because it's about the inner journey. It's really about that more than the outer journey. It shows on the outside later, right? As we change the inner. You and I were talking earlier about, funny how people kind of come into your life when you're ready. That there's a phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That kind of idea. Mm-hmm. It's not just the teacher. Maybe it's an opportunity or something comes into your life and you're like, wow, I hoped for this a while ago and here it is, mm-hmm. right? And then being able to respond to that, to be able to see that, okay, and to overcome the fear of moving forward. Mm-hmm. Of any new venture that we're going to do or change in our life.
I think asking for help is a lot of people don't do it, right? They don't ask for help. Right. Whether they're the empath and they're the ones used to giving, or they're just not natural. A lot of people don't share what they're feeling. And so, not asking for help, that fear of, I think, of getting to you're never going to get to that change if you're constantly feeling this fear and you don't ask for help. It's not gonna, nothing's gonna change. So how do you take that step to actually do it? And like you said about the teacher, and people come into your life at a certain time when you need it, but realizing, I think the more that we talk about it, because now there's so much more awareness now than there was years ago. I think that whole stigma of not talking about your feelings or not talking to a stranger about things so we need that. We need to be more open and honest. And again, at that time when I came to you, like I kept everything inside. I felt like I couldn't go to the people that were closest to me for help because they didn't understand what I was going through, or they weren't going through that. But then as you start to open up, now that I'm created this nonprofit and this movement, so many people have come to me to tell me their stories and talk to me and maybe say their stories for the first time. So it's like you surround yourself around that energy. You do something like talking to a therapist for that, to get that out of you. That's the first step. But like you said, it has to come from within, and it eventually comes later on in life. But I think it's still important for anyone to, everyone has a trauma, and everyone has to, get that root out of there. Like some people think of trauma as just something big, right? A big thing happening that's very traumatic. And there are people who go through something so traumatic as like what happened to me, or deaths in the family, anything that happens in life. But like when you have the little, when nothing's really traumatic, or you think trauma hasn't happened to you, but I see it from people like, okay, I can see how their anxieties are. They get nervous over little thing. They're not like, I feel like I'm emotionally intelligent, in tune with my body. So I'm able to read that off people, but then the other person doesn't really know and understand that until they actually self-realize it. So I think that's, it's important to really learn yourself and get within yourself. But I mean, the only way that I could have gotten through that for someone to tell me like, Dana, this is not something that traumatized. It wasn't that big thing. It was the little things, these little things that happened in your childhood, because a person that is, like I said, it hasn't been through a big trauma. They don't think that anything's wrong with them. Like this is just them. That's who they are. But if you have all these different anxieties and you get nervous over things and you're just not living a life full, there's little things that you need help with, right? I feel like life is just too short to not live happily in the stress and the things that are all around us in our society. It's just, it's sad to see. But mental health is really important. You gotta get down to those root things. So, what is like a pivotal point? What does a pivotal moment look like when someone stops running from their pain and finally like faces it?
Wow, a pivotal moment. Well, I think reaching out for help is pivotal in and of itself, because changes already start to happen before they walk in the door. In my case, meeting people online, there's already things coming up. So I would say that's pivotal. I do think along the way there are all these different kinds of realizations, because as you clear one layer of pain, there's another one has the opportunity to appear. And that's really kind of thinking of it in terms of layers, like our skin. I think we have 7 layers of skin, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of getting at the different layers of things, of, if you will, the suffering or the stuck emotions. And so I think that's key. It's allow it to be a process, allow it to be a process for that individual, and for them to discover as it goes. A therapist is keeping in sync with the individual in front of them, and maybe just a slight bit ahead in terms of helping get to the next step. Okay, there's of healing. If we're overwhelmed, we got to take care of the whole big thing all at one time. That's usually not very effective. It's really staying in pace with your clients, being able to look a little bit forward and see what could be for them, what could be help them with their own freedom, to get freedom from the pain. Mm-hmm. even if it's buried. And like you were saying, a lot of people don't reach out, or therapy's got a bad name, or maybe they had a bad experience with someone, with a therapist. I mean, and you never know what someone has gone through, right? And I think you also hit on, these small T, a big T, little T, right? But the little T's can be sometimes the bigger ones that didn't look like the big ones, right? Like maybe somebody called us a bad name or stupid when we were a kid, and it just got stuck in here, right? It got stuck, and so it kind of colors or what our vision of our own worthiness, and so important to clear that stuff out. It's like, oh, no big deal. That person called me this or that, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that was a label. Whoever said that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Oh no,
Yeah,
words have power, and that's why we call it spelling. Words cast spells, actually. On the individual that they're targeted for. So advertisers know this. They get a singing social media, singing jingles. We're all affected by those words.
When you just said it there, the words, going towards the topic of domestic violence, right? Everyone thinks, not everyone, but a lot of people think domestic violence is just physical, but it's the emotional abuse, that the words that are said into someone to make someone feel so little and defeated. And
Agreed.
so kind of pivoting to domestic abuse, what should someone ask themselves if they're in an abusive relationship, but they're unsure about getting help? Like what should someone do, ask themselves in that moment? If they're in an abusive relationship, what should they ask themselves to try to get help?
Okay. To first be able to recognize what's going on, the manipulation, the put downs, whatever is happening there, an uneasiness, and then for them to, their safety is important always. They may not be able to confront their abuser, or they've tried to reason with that person and it's not working. So they really need to weigh their options in that respect, which, there's a wide range of responses people can have to being abused, right? It can be immediate, they're reactive to it as well, and push back a lot. Sometimes that welcomes more in. Unfortunately, that's the tough part about it, right? So it's being able to still be safe in whatever you choose to do. Maybe that person isn't trustworthy because they probably wouldn't be doing the abuse if they were, right? So if they're willing to, if the abuser is willing to learn to change, great. We see so many times where that's not true.
Right.
And while I recognize that abuse can happen to both males and females, women and men, children, of course, too, but just talking in terms of gender, it's quite a bit more prevalent with women being abused by significant others and husbands and that kind of thing. And so while it's to really be able to, and I'm sure that's what you see too. I know it's not exclusively that, and I never want to say all, but when it's when numbers are kind of like 80% or more, we're talking almost all. We're talking, about pretty big numbers there. So, and women typically, there's a history of this. Because women have been very dependent on men for their shelter, food, clothing, all the provision, until the Fair Credit Act was passed in 1974, granting women access to bank accounts in their name only. borrowing money, credit cards, all that. So 1974
It's not that long ago.
is not that long ago.
Right.
And so for thousands of years, and I feel like this is an important point, and you can let me know if it's we're veering off in the wrong direction.
Oh, no.
But I really want women to understand you've come a long way, baby, and we're still the social norms are still in process of shifting to where it's okay to be single. It's okay to be a woman making her own way, using her creativity, earning her own money. And this is making a huge shift in our society.
Yeah.
And some people love it and some people don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some people are going to go for the traditional ways of this is how it's always been, so this is the way it's going to be. Oftentimes, though, women subjected themselves and or had no choice. I want to say it that way. They had no choice but to get married or be with a man or have the resources of their father, right, of their dad. So women are, the Fair Credit Act changed a lot of things available for women, and we're still kind of catching up to this and finding our own power, that it's okay to have our own power and that our identity isn't just found through roles. And what are those roles? Wife, mother, right? And those roles nurturer, right. Mm-hmm. Those roles have defined women for, again, thousands of years, okay? We didn't have access to education as much as men did. For example, schools would allow women in, but oftentimes the schools would allow only 20% or less of their overall student body to be women. So we were disallowed legally until the Fair Credit Act was enacted. So that was a law, right? We couldn't do it. We couldn't necessarily get into certain schools. It wasn't as accessible as it was for men. And then, like, for example, Yale did not start to allow women to attend school until 1969 and Harvard until 1975. So when you look at that in terms of our of women being able to go ahead and think about their own, like, what can I creatively do and contribute to this world? What's my purpose?
Yeah.
The purpose used to be, honey, you get a husband, have children, and live that white picket fence dream. Mm-hmm. And women are starting to see, wait a minute, maybe that's okay if I don't want to do that. It's okay if you do want to do that. Mm-hmm. It's the flexibility, right?
Yep.
And the ability for women to be encouraged differently than what they were before. Men have always been encouraged, find your thing, work your job. And I'm not saying they've had it easy.
No, right,
I'm really not. It's really a patriarchal design that we're in. It's not that easy for anyone in the society that's been created. Mm-hmm. So it's about learning to individually support people that we're not just here. And I'll speak from this sense of that women aren't just here to support their man, right? Whoever they may choose, mm-hmm. or chooses them, right? However that works. But it's really to be able to creatively craft their life with their passions and what mm-hmm. they want to do. And you're a perfect example of this, Dana, mm-hmm. is really saying, okay, I see this issue of domestic violence, and how can I help other women discover their strengths? Mm-hmm. And part of it has been, how society has been shaped that we're also overcoming. I mean, the term become an old lady with cats
Yeah.
That's such a derogatory, but really it's not that bad of an idea.
Yeah.
You know, no cats, no husband, no kids, or excuse me, cats, no husband, no kids. But it's like, why do we have to put that? Why do we have to label women as insufficient or less than because they chose a different path? And I think some women grew up knowing this, and others of us did not.
Right.
You know, I went the traditional route. And
because of the way that our parents were raised, like you're taught one way.
Yes.
And you're taught to do one thing, but then you realize all the, you know, I was taught to always focus on my career, focus on me, and
Beautiful.
But I still found myself in relationships that were abusive because of just because of that empath, the way that I was always caring for others and always worrying about what others think, because that's what was ingrained in my head as a child. So I'd always go and do too much for somebody else, and I wasn't looking within myself. And that's a big thing. Or, you know, you touched on how men have the education because they get the careers, and their focus is their career and their passion. They get to go drive for their passion and their purpose, but the woman's purpose is to raise the kids. But what happens when the kids grow up, and then what's your purpose? So I feel like of being a woman in today's world, why can't we have a purpose while we have kids? You know, so the kids could learn from us to watch us strive and work hard and make a difference in our world while we're raising them. We can do both, you know?
Exactly. And I think women do much better when they have something that isn't just, and no shade to being a wife, a homemaker, stay-at-home mom. I did these things too. I did these things and have children, right? And mine are all adults now. But really having something else to go to that you know that you have a passion for, you're good at, that makes a difference for a woman. Because when the kids when they start their teenage years, they're focused on their social aspects of their life, and so they're kind of taking the launch sequence, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, boom, and then college or not, trade school, whatever it ends up being, but they're launching their life, right? And so then the woman is, wait a minute, this was supposed to be my life. Well, wait a minute, what do I do now? And I think it's great for women to cultivate that sense of self and figure out what they really want to do, and to have a partner who is supportive of that. Right, exactly. Not just a relationship, but a partnership.
Yeah,
where we're both, sparring each other on to our capabilities, right? We're not in competition with each other. We're not trying to one-up the other. We're just going as far as we can individually. It's a beautiful thing when it works that way.
Yes, it is.
Right? So, and I think it's changing the attitudes and minds of men and helping them also. We've stigmatized them from getting help in certain spaces and going that little deeper route to heal their hurts. And we've told somewhere along the way it got, that's not manly to get help or to decide how to heal or how to label certain emotions. I think guys have a little more challenge to label their emotions and then say, okay, this is what it is. I'm feeling grief, but I feel angry. I'm feeling sad, but I feel angry. And usually for men, that's a more common emotion, is the anger. And so we see that, but we don't see the processing through other things for them. And that's partially social stigma.
Yeah. I mean, it's been 50 years since the movement started. So you
really
think of 50 years is a long time, but I feel like now we have the education, we have the awareness. The more we talk about it and not keep quiet, because everyone's going through it. So many people go through it. how do we break that cycle is just to keep on talking about it, keep on making more awareness, because our younger generation needs to see that. If they saw their mom or their dad go through abuse, and now they're going to either relive the process or whatever, anything, even just talking about feelings. If they go through if their father or their mother don't talk about the child's feelings, they're going to go through life in the same thing. So how do we break that? How do we break that cycle of that stigma of not talking about things and not, doing things? It's the fear that's created from childhood, going back, that fear of, I'm at a point in my life where what's the fear? Like I can be gone tomorrow. I can be gone, anytime today. Anything could happen. Right. So the overcoming the fear is so important to put the work in, because who are we stopping? We're just not allowing each other to grow. We're stuck in situations we don't want to be in. We're not happy. We're not living the full life. So the fear has to kind of, you got to remove that fear, and take it to the next level, and just kind of do what's on your mind and do what you feel, and follow that passion and follow your dreams of what you want to do and your purpose, your purpose. But so many people,
absolutely,
so many people, I feel like, obviously you said about the safety and leaving a situation, and we talked about that, but I feel like women are in situations, or men are in situations that they're in because of what they're used to, what they're used to seeing. So, for example, a woman whose father was abusive, or a woman who's attracted to a certain culture because that's their culture. These cultural generations too of the man has to be this way, the woman has to be this way, and you're just used to gravitating towards your culture. I think that that's a big stigma to like break too. You have that generational cultures and the trauma and everything. We have to end it there and move forward to something better,
Absolutely. Yeah. Those kind of like, it's always been done this way, so it's going to keep going this way. And to really go against that, you can get some friction from family members and who want you to have a certain experience maybe that they had, or, they don't necessarily understand why, but that's how it was handed down to them. Right. So we're kind of breaking generational things in order to understand and free ourselves, free humanity from what we've accepted as truth that may not work very well. It's not the only truth. And so it takes a certain amount of courage, like you said. I say courage is fear that has said its prayers. So when you think an individual is going to like move forward in some way, and to say, you're completely without fear when you do that, not usually true. Fear is kind of nipping, kind of real close behind the courage. The courage is just enough to take that next step, but it's going to come with it. It kind of comes with it. It's even, or the anxiety, feelings of anxiety to do something new, right? So there's going to be that friction, and just to do it anyway, to propel oneself to go for it anyway. Whatever that is, it could be something that others would say, well, that's not scary. And it's like, well, then you do it.
Yeah. Well, for some people it's scary, some people it's not. I was saying, I was saying at an event recently that, like, I was talking about how at work, like, I'm in a job where I get coached, to do better. And our company encourages to coach each other to do better. And like, so you need that like push to, hey, let's look at it a different way. And it's almost like therapy. Like, I have a leader that I work with who coaches you through things. I was a leader to help others coach through things. Like, some people take it and run with it, and some people are not so they just don't like it at all. And they're very defensive. And I seen that through work. So I see how the different personalities, and I can see that something, for them to get so defensive off what I was trying to say, did I say it right? Or am I trying to do something right? Like that coaching practice has been in my life kind of, so I'm very receptive to it. I enjoy it. I think it's whatever's going to come my way, it's going to make me better. But a lot of people are not used to that because they're not in that environment. So, this whole thing of getting therapy, like it's just coaching. It's like a life coach, like you said, like you need that in life too. People have it in their jobs, but we need it in our lives too. So no one's helping us through our everyday problems. Like that's something that's important too. And so I think that, that's important to break through and just accept the coaching, accept that you're not, no one's perfect. We're all humans. Like you said, therapist is not perfect either. We're all humans. So, it's just kind of acknowledging it and just making yourself a better person. And some people I've learned just don't change, like they're wired a certain way. So some people will never go to therapy because they think that they're right and they think that they're okay. And most of the time it's the abuser. It's the abuser won't ever get help, and they're just wired that way, and that's the way it is. And the only way out is for you to leave, right? Or is used to the other person to change the scenario. Like this person's not going to get help, not going to see things a different way, or just not compatible. But a lot of times in abusive relationships, it's something can't get fixed. Like you have to walk away. You have to make that change of leaving. Yeah. And that's the most difficult thing in life, like to actually change. Like you're changing your whole world now upside down. That's a huge, huge thing. And so to actually take that step, getting help is just important. Sharing your support, being around people that have the same story. Like the more that we constantly talk about it, the better. And so every form of therapy is good. But what would you say to someone listening who kind of recognizes these patterns and feels scared and hopeless? Like, what would you say to start the healing process? Like, what would you say to someone listening who recognizes them and they're ready to kind of make that change?
Well, to take that first step to reach out. I mean, there's hotlines, so very anonymous. There's your website. There's my website. There's to make that initial call and to know there's no judgment on the other end. That's really important to know. And sometimes we're judging ourselves on the inside, and we need to let that voice not be so loud. And to be able to reach out and to know you're going to be okay. This is a new journey, maybe something unfamiliar, but it's going to bring some relief, and that you don't deserve to be treated badly. There's, why women have, again, mostly women have tended to tolerate things from people, like you said, who won't change. Well, those people that won't change lack empathy. They lack conscience sometimes to be able to look at themselves to see what they're doing. And just the other comment that I have about that is wanting someone to change or seeing them as a project, like, oh, I can change him. A lot of time that idea is coming from women. Well, he'll change this because he loves me. He says he loves me, therefore he loves me, and he'll change for me. And that's a bit of an ego process right there. Like, ladies, let's be really careful that I want to say what you see is what you get. Like, can you accept that? Can you accept it on those terms? What if nothing changed?
That's the difference between like trauma bonding and real true love. Like tying that your trauma is like that you're accepting, like, it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are familiar with doing that. He'll change because he loves me. And then maybe we got told, I love you, and then things don't change. So that we're also responsible for what we are accepting, right? And like you said, that can come from previous engagements with, that we've seen, previous things that we've seen in our life as children.
Right.
Where that was somewhat normalized because it was there.
Right.
That's all. It was just there. We were in that environment. And so, I'm also calling women to their own responsibility for choosing too. And moving forward out of victim mode into more understanding and self-love, which as a whole, I mean, you and I could do a whole segment on just self-love, talking about how do you cultivate that, right? It does help in then us being able to have better boundaries so that we don't accept unacceptable behavior.
Yeah, self-love is, I mean, that's all I talk about as well. And I think, going through, everyone has self-love, every woman. I was saying I talk to women every day, and it's like everyone looks in the mirror and says, oh, I don't like this, and I don't fit, so you're constantly judging yourself. I'm too fat, I'm too this. Like, it's like, okay, so you're saying all these negative things to yourself. So what can you do to change these things? Like, why are you feeling this way? And what can you do to change these? What is driving you to maybe go and to be depressed and overeat? Or what's driving you to feel depressed and sick inside? Like, is there something, I think that, again, finding the tools, and wellness, it's all about your mind, body, and soul. So people's body has to be, healthy, but their mind, I think women spend a lot of money trying to make themselves look better, but how do we spend the money to make us feel better on the inside? Yeah. And that's where that investment in you, you need to make it, because, you're making it, you're being sold on social media and different things of making your face look better and look younger and feel better and all this stuff. But that's all on the outside.
That's right.
And on the inside, and same thing with getting to know people. Any relationships that you get to know on the outside, you don't know someone based on the cover. You can't judge a book by its cover. So until you really get to know somebody and know their deep-rooted issues and, what bothers them, talk about life, talk about experiences, if you're not finding that out, you're not really don't know that person. You don't know that person well. So if you're not doing that to yourself, you don't really know yourself that well. And so that's what I've learned over the years, is that I got to know myself. And I think the turning point was me when I became a mother. And so, like, here's my vessel, the gift that God gave me. And I need to look into myself and what I want to teach my child, and sometimes marriages don't work out, or you got to do it together separately. And that maybe that's healthier for your child, which is a good thing. Or you have that strong bond and that partnership and you do it together. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. And you have to work through, I think the most important thing is our children, our next generation, our teens, and making it okay to talk to the counselor at school or to a counselor like you. Like, it's okay to talk about your feelings, and it's okay to talk to your kids about those things. I think I've done that since day one. You gotta talk to your children and really get to know what they're feeling, because our parents didn't do that with us because that was the stigma. They didn't know anything. So I think that just changing the light and the next generation is what our goals, our common goal is, and bringing more awareness to it. But, what can you, if you had one thing to wish everyone that knew what would you say, what's one thing you wish everyone knew about the possibility of healing from trauma? Because some people think like, this is it. This is my life. Like, this is it. I'm going to be miserable. And I mean, I hear it. I hear it sometimes from, my mom, and like my parents, like people who are older that have kind of gone through stuff, they're just giving up. Or even people in their 40s, that just, they went through a life-changing event of divorce or something happening bad in their life, and they're like, this is it, my life's over, I'm just done. What's one thing you can say to someone that's going through that to give them hope of healing?
That is such a great question. I don't know if I can give it as compact of an answer, but I can say this. Our belief about relationships, marriage, relationships and marriage are key to understanding why we do what we do. So if that belief no longer serves us, it's having the courage then to say, okay, I'm not going to stay in this suffering anymore. I'm going to find a new way. And what comes with that is our fear of what other people think about us and about our life path. It's not cut out for everyone to go ahead and get divorced, right? Or leave that relationship, because we've been taught if you're not in this relationship, you're in another one. Mm-hmm. Really? Why? Why do I believe that I'm going to find or need to find another relationship? So it's personal, I want to say personal accountability or understanding of where my beliefs are with who I am and who I am being in society, and whether society agrees or not, following the path that I can take. Mm-hmm. And that, honestly, it takes some work, and maybe people are more afraid of the work that it takes. Oh, I might have to look at something I'm doing. Not many of us like to hear we're doing something wrong or we contributed to something, but sometimes we kind of slipped in there and contributed to it. But it is taking full responsibility for everything going on in our life. I mean, I like to put out my arms and just go full responsibility for everything. Even if I could say, well, he did this or she did that or they did that. And it's kind of like, okay, nope.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, you've just got to open your arms and take full responsibility for everything in your life. It's a big chunk. You might take a chunk at a time. Mm-hmm. And because I acted this way, they acted that way, or it's also understanding. I think another whole area of study is what have men been telling us about themselves for a very, very long time that we're not listening to, and or we have a fairy tale around it, what life's going to be like with them, instead of understanding, seeking first to understand who men are or what drives them. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's an important piece, and kind of, to have the understanding of who and what we're dealing with. Sometimes people are presenting what I call a representative of themselves when you first meet them. They may not be, and we all do that to a certain extent. We're on our best behavior at our first meeting, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's inevitable, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Usually, we're not dumping everything on the first time we meet someone. So, or whatever that is, whatever's mm-hmm. still bothering us, if anything.
Right. So,
it's taking our time and reshifting our focus if we need to. Like, what do I really want? I mean, if I meet someone and I say, okay, he's a project now, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. That's not fair to that person,
right?
At all. Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their own healing journey. So, if that person's going through what they're going through, then they have to fix it on their own. Everyone has to learn.
Exactly. I mean, I might add too, but that initiative has to be his or her own. It's not mine.
Right.
I have my own initiatives, and to really understand that is, I think, key to take personal responsibility. And it's not the easiest thing.
Right.
It takes some understanding and carving out those beliefs, or do I believe this really, or does society just told me to believe it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A big difference.
So where can people find you and learn more about the neuro technique therapy and like all these trauma therapies that you talked about? Like where?
Yeah, the neuro-emotional technique is NET. I also utilize a bit of emotion code, body code, and also faster EFT, also called eutaptics. Those are other. I blend those in or decide which to use for that individual for even during the session. Ways to reach me are my phone number at 630-707-1799. And you can text that number if that feels easier to do. I'm open to any way the communication happens. And then my email is ascenthealing@gmail.com. That's ASCENTHEALING, all one word, @gmail.com. Mm-hmm. So give me a call, even if you just have a few questions. I do a free consult before I work with someone to see if I can actually help you with what you're concerned about, right? Or help you move on your path. And I love the work that I do, and I love making a difference in others' lives. And they're really the ones moving forward. I'm a bit of a guide, and I have a bit of a structure to allow that kind of growth. So. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Well, thank you, Trinity, for sharing your expertise and your story and all the things that you've shared today. I think again, it takes that one step to just pick up the phone and make a difference. And I did that, years ago with you, and now we're sitting here today and I'm sharing my story that how you helped me. So like, you never know who you're gonna help and affect. And I think that's what we're here to do. That's our purpose. Yes. And I appreciate you guiding me in the right light and direction. But again, like none of this is easy. Change is not easy, but you have to put the work in to decide what life you want to live. It's all in you, and starts with loving yourself, thinking about where you want to go in life, and learning that we can't change. But I think the common goal is to help our generation of our past traumas and help them realize that childhood trauma affected their past into what they're in their present moment now. But it's our next generation that we have to help and educate and be the voices for them, so that way we don't repeat the cycle. I mean, like you said, it's been 50 years. Like, we have to get out of that and really change the world and make it a better place. So thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Trinity, for sharing everything that you shared today. And she shared her information, but again, this is all about changing our past and making a better present, and putting the work in and making sure that we do everything we can in our power to be happy. Because again, life's too short, and we gotta put in the work, and it's for everybody. It's not just for anyone going through a domestic violence situation. It's for any type of trauma. People are in these situations because of traumas, and it's anything. And so don't fear that step to get help. And thank you all for joining.